Hey everybody, welcome to PTW Amps. We have here today a 1968 Fender Super Reverb, silver face. Now there's been some work done on the circuit, so it actually inside is a black face. When I do a cut in a minute, I'll show you what this amp looked like when it first came into the shop. It had originally been chopped down into a 2x10 rather crudely. Two of the original speakers were lost. So what this amp is basically a replica cabinet complete with the drip edge, new drip edge, which I made here in the shop in order to replace the stuff that had been butchered up. Now the chassis itself, everything inside the amp, so it's your basic like 40-watt Super Reverb. It runs two 6L6 tubes. It's been all retubed with new tubes and recapped. The electrolytic capacitors and the power supply and bias and so on have been replaced. There actually was smoke coming out of this amp at one point from blown caps. Some resistors changed on the board where they had drifted. The old carbon composition resistors, very common in these old 60s amps. This is a real classic, clean, loud, clean type of amp used by many blues players. But as you'll hear when I pick up the SG, you know, with a overdrive pedal, you can get some pretty good rock tones out of an amp like this as well. Great reverb. The original Gibbs tank I still have, although it's very noisy, so I've actually got an MOD replacement tank in the amp right now, hoping to get the original Gibbs back in there at some point after a bit of work. Tremolo is working, as you will have heard with the demo of the Telecaster. What you heard at the start of the video was just the Tele plugged straight into the amp with just the reverb and tremolo. I'm going to pick up the SG and add a Marshall Governor overdrive pedal so you can hear some of the rock tones of this amp. And then we'll come back and I'll actually show you a little bit of what this amp looked like when it first arrived. So here's a quick look at what the amp looked like when it arrived. The cabinet, of course, Super Reverb, should be a nice square 4x10 cabinet like this replica here. That chassis was housed in this, which is this old moldy, and this is an original cabinet, but just somebody had basically sawed through the middle of it and fixed the bottom back on. Turned it into a 2x10. I've seen this happen a bunch of times with some of the larger Fenders. There was a period in the 80s and 90s where these amps didn't necessarily get the love that they deserve, and people would butcher them up. The original baffle here, which as you can see from this sort of remaining little crescent of another two speakers, was also similarly just hacked through. Someone kind of nailed the board on here just to give it a bit of an edge. Now these old JBL speakers, the cones are basically shot and I could not use them. So in the restoration I've put in a quartet of Eminence Alnico speakers from the 1970s. So they are vintage speakers and they sound pretty good in the amp. The baffle, and this is a bit of Fender's fault, was a chipboard, I should say particle board baffle. There's now a Baltic birch ply baffle in the restoration. It gives a lot more stability and I think better tone. And one other thing, this is the original drip edge, so-called, this aluminum edging that the Fenders from 68 and 69 had in the early Silverface period, had similarly been hacked through, so it was unusable. And so I took some sheet aluminum and basically just kind of hammered and sort of fought my way through making some replica drip edge to give the cabinet that classic drip edge look as a 68 should have. So there you go, before and after. So that's it for this demonstration of this restored 68 Fender Super Reverb. well worth picking up if you find these on the vintage market. And even if you find a broken one, you know, for the right price, you just find a good tech. They all can be fixed, they all can be restored. A little bit like an old Army Jeep, they just keep on going. And in the meantime, thank you for watching. PTW Amps is my channel. Please subscribe, and you can find PTW Amps on Facebook. Thanks for watching.